Number 15. Bounty Gate. While it may not give the team an advantage in the game, the New Orleans Saints violated NFL rules by offering bonuses for hurting opposing players during the games. As a result of the awards given by coaches and players who raised money, many notable players were injured between 2009 and 2012. Some of the big names include Brett Favre, Kurt Warner, Aaron Rodgers, and Cam Newton. The Saints eventually won the Super Bowl in the first year of Bounty Gate, with head coach Sean Payton away from the field for the entire 2012 season. This is an immoral tactic, but it did yield results. Remember guys, sometimes winning is not everything. Sports are also about honor. Number 14. Steroid Era. Perhaps the most exciting era in baseball history was the most doped up. In what is known today as the steroid era, some of the best players in the league were arrested for steroids, while others later admitted to being on performance-enhancing drugs during their playing days. Ken Caminiti won the National League MVP award in 1996, and then admitted to using drugs to improve his performance. Other players like Alex Rodriguez were caught up in the act in 2003, and players like Mark McGwire have admitted after their careers were over that they took steroids. The first domino hit the ground when Jose Canseco published a book in 2005 detailing his use of steroids and its use by other players in the league. It was later estimated that 40% of players during that time period used steroids. It's no surprise that players were using performance-enhancing substances. If you were able to watch and compare recordings of games from the doping era to the modern-day ones, you will see my point. There's no way that you could pull off beyond human moves without external stimulation. Some of the greatest things that happened on the baseball field belong to that particular time period, and I don't think we need to elaborate on why that's the way it is, right? Number 13. Joe Niekro. Joe Niekro has played in the major leagues for over 20 years as a pitcher with 7 different teams. Niekro won 221 games and attended an All-Star game, but people will always remember him for the incredibly ridiculous trick he tried in 1985 as a member of the Minnesota Twins. Niekro was found to have an emery board in his pocket that he used to tamper with the ball. When the referee told Niekro to empty his pockets, the board and the piece of sandpaper came out. It's all on tape, and it became clear as day that he was cheating, and it was in a very lousy way. Number 12. New England Patriots Spygate. While all talk of catching Patriots cheating focuses on Deflategate these days, the first time they were caught cheating was in 2007, when the team recorded a video of Jets coaches signaling their players. Roger Goodell decided the Patriots were cheating by recording the Jets on the sidelines, a violation that led to the biggest fine for an NFL coach. Bill had to pay $500,000 to the league. The team also received a $250,000 fine and had to drop its first draft pick in 2008. Recording a game is one thing, but devising a plan to eavesdrop on the communication of another team is totally different. One thing is certain, they didn't get far with their cheating efforts. Number 11. Rosie Ruiz. When people listen to Rosie's story, many think that she's not an athlete, but she was actually a very good one. Just not good enough to win the Boston Marathon or the New York Marathon. Ruiz qualified with a great time of 2 hours, 56 minutes, and 29 seconds. When Rosie won the Boston Marathon with a time of 2 hours, 31 minutes, and 56 seconds, many people were curious to see how she improved her time so quickly and became the 3rd fastest woman in history. After some people noticed that she was not sweating like other runners, and that her legs did not have the definition other runners had, an investigation was launched. It turned out that Ruiz had not run the entire Boston Marathon, and that she had done the same thing for the one in New York. Apparently, she joined the race only half a mile before the finish line. No wonder her times were amazing. The clock was totally dependent on her. 8 days after being crowned as the winner, she was stripped of her title. No cheaters should ever be given first place. Number 10. New York City College. New York City College had just left the NIT championship and the NCAA tournament title in the 1950 season, when the Beavers were caught breaking the rules. Team players would meet with opposing players before the games and come to an agreement point-wise that made thousands and thousands of dollars for some people in the process. After the team beat Temple by 24 points in 1951, players were arrested and they returned to campus. Many teams were penalized and had to close their basketball programs until Kentucky was able to recover from a season where there was no basketball team. Student athletes were rigging games. It sounds sad, but it's true. Some people made quite a lot of money before the jig was up. Number 9. Renault F1 Team. In car racing, trying to cheat is a big part of the sport, as teams try to gain an advantage with their cars, hoping that the governing body will miss a thing or two in the post-inspection after the race. Sometimes the infidelity is a little more obvious than it was in 2008 with the Renault Formula One team. They made Nelson Piquet Jr. intentionally crash so that the race could be restarted and Fernando Alonso could approach the leader. Alonso won, but the team was kicked out of the races for 2 years. and Pickett had to look for an alternative career in NASCAR. Number 8. Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong was the best story to make anyone feel good and made the Tour de France fit for the casual sports fan. Armstrong had survived cancer and eventually won 7 titles at the Tour de France, but some members of the competition who competed against him doubted how legitimate his victories were. It turned out that Armstrong was taking drugs to improve his performance, and he denied it until 2013 when he appeared on Oprah and admitted to defrauding the system, which is not fine and dandy by any standards. What came out of this was a massive scandal, and the world of competitive cycling was never the same. A lot of fans got incredibly disappointed, and with a good reason. Armstrong was a role model for everyone, and truth be told, some people took it really hard when he admitted to using drugs. The speculations that his achievements were beyond the reach of human abilities turned out to be true, and no surprise, the man was one doped-up bicycle riding machine. And now for number 7. But first, if new to the channel, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss out on more videos like these. Number 7. Ben Johnson. Canada is not really known for the production of Olympic sprinters, but they did find one in the face of Ben Johnson. Johnson won 2 bronze and 1 gold medal at the Olympic Games, setting a record for the fastest 100-meter race at the 1988 Summer Olympics. After the Olympic Games, Ben Johnson's blood tests and urine were found to contain illegal substances that removed his records from the books. Johnson admitted to taking steroids, but he was not the only one. Of the 8 people who qualified in the 100-meter race, 6 of them also tested positive. The funny thing is that people that might have pointed the fingers were suddenly on the receiving end. 6 out of 8 people tested positive. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if we just allow the usage of doping in the Olympics. The people there are already the best in the world. Imagine what would happen if they were able to take whatever they want in the terms of stimulants. I somehow have the feeling this image made your brain tick. How fast would the fastest people on Earth be if it was okay to use steroids? Number 6. Pete Rose. Pete Rose was a member of the Cincinnati Reds and the best hitter in baseball history when he retired. Rose took a manager position with the Reds after his career as a player, and it was discovered that Rose was betting on the Reds while he was the manager. Rose denied that this had been happening for a long time, but finally received a lifetime ban on baseball before revealing that he was actually betting on almost every game he made for Cincinnati. There have been repeated attempts to bring Rose back, but to no avail. Betting on the games of your own team? That's a strategy for making money. Now he can bet all he wants, but it has to be outside of the borders of a baseball stadium. Number 5. Marion Jones. Marion Jones was the star of the show at the 2000 Summer Olympics in Sydney when she won 3 gold medals for the USA athletics team. Jones also spent time in the WNBA playing for Tulsa Shock. However, her career on the track was most notable, and it turned out that she was taking steroids to help her win the races. Jones was stripped of her gold medals when she confessed after the names of the Balco case began to fall, and she was part of them. Jones also had to spend time in prison, and she did reside there for 6 months. Who would think she'd end up in jail? Not me. I remember watching the Olympics and admiring her feat of the incredible athleticism. You know what they say, winners don't take drugs, which in this case we could say is a bit debatable. The winner took drugs that made her a winner in the first place, but exactly those drugs demoted her achievements and showed her the way out of the competitive sports world. Number 4. Tonya Harding. Tonya Harding was involved in an intense battle with Nancy Kerrigan during the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in 1994, which was the actual Olympic event when the Winter Olympics were moved 2 years earlier than normal. Harding's husband at the time, Jeff Gooley, and his friend Sean Eckhart hired a man by the name of Shane Stant to attack Kerrigan while practicing in Detroit, which resulted in Kerrigan missing the event. Harding won, but Kerrigan was the other skater to go to the Olympics, where Harding finished 8th and Kerrigan won silver. Karma is something else, wouldn't you say? At first you think you've gotten away with something, but then karma steps in and publicly humiliates you. There's nothing worse than to be beaten fair and square by the person you've plotted against. Don't try to pull a fast one, guys. Karma is always watching. Number 3. 1919 Chicago White Sox. The World Series is the ultimate goal for any Major League Baseball team, but apparently the money has been a little more important to the 1919 Chicago White Sox. In their series against the Cincinnati Reds, 8 White Sox players were accused of losing the game on purpose because betting on the underdogs made more of a financial sense than actually trying their best to take home the win. Although the courts of the time did not find the White Sox players guilty, they all received a lifetime ban for playing baseball, and the most notable of the group was Joe Jackson, aka Shoeless. They must have thought that they would never get caught. There's no other reasonable explanation for throwing your whole baseball career down the drain. These people lost their ability to play because they decided to risk it all for some money. What a shame. I heard those guys were good. Number 2. Mike Tomlin. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had a lot of success with coaches in recent decades, including Mike Tomlin, who won them a Super Bowl victory. However, in a regular season game against the Ravens at the end of the 2013 regular season, Tomlin left a line. In fact, Tomlin took to the field to interrupt Jacoby Jones, who seemed to be headed to the end zone. Tomlin said it was an honest mistake and that it might have looked like that from the side, but that certainly wasn't the case. He received a $100,000 fine and the team almost had to give up a draft pick. The sheer ridiculousness of this act is enough to classify this in any list of wannabe cheaters. Sir, you are a grown man. Have some dignity and refrain yourself from going out on the field in the middle of the game to mess around with a player from the other team. Thankfully, no one got physically hurt, and all it took for this misunderstanding to disappear was a hefty fine. Number 1. Nigerian soccer. Nigerian football does not make European football titles, but it was crazy to see how many people are interested in it after the 2011-2012 season. 2 teams were trying to get promoted from the semi-professional to the lowest professional league in the country and needed some differential help to achieve it. The 2 teams have talked to 2 more teams in the league to create uneven matches that would get them in. The result was 2 games scoring 79-0 and 67-0. As a result, the 4 teams that participated in these games were banned for a period of 10 years. How do you even consider rigging a football game with a crazy score like 79-0? Couldn't they have made it a little less suspicious by winning with a goal or 2? Just don't think about it, it might make you crazy. Number 15. Most pull-ups in 24 hours. Here's a macho woman. Australia's Eva Clark had the idea to raise money for charities and thought she would use the effort to reach the Guinness World Record to promote her cause. The challenge? Do as many pull-ups as possible within 24 hours. If you're a woman and you prove that you are so macho, so much so that men have to give you respect, where else would you do it except Abu Dhabi? The fact that this record was set in the most developed region in the world where women don't have much of a say made it extremely sweet. This is the same place where an American woman is currently in prison for refusing to speak to local men. When all was said and done, Clark did 3,377 pull-ups and the record was set on March 10, 2016. That's one way to make a statement. Number 14. Longest Call of Duty marathon. According to Guinness, Okan Kea played Call of Duty Black Ops 2 for 135 hours, 15 minutes, and 10 seconds. He did it from November 13th to 19th in 2012 in New South Wales. For players who are sure they could take this record head-on, there is a 10-minute break waiting for them at the end of each gaming hour. This is for eating, drinking, using the bathroom, brushing your teeth, dozing off, and whatever else. It's hard to imagine what your body will feel like after an exhausting marathon such as this one. Oh well, I guess I'll never know. Number 13. Most competitive full contact rounds. Here is a Guinness World Record for someone who really knows how to take a beating. When you think of a fighter's career, whether amateur or professional, it's kind of painful to imagine all the punches you have to get. Punches in the gut, kidneys, ribs, face, all that junk. This is especially true of boxers who are regulated to only throw punches when fighting. Unlike many Guinness World Records involving people or groups trying to set or break a record, this particular record is based on an application that follows a long career in full contact sports. The British fighter Paddy Doyle has more competitive rounds than any other fighter in recorded history. From 1993 to 2009, Doyle heard the bell ring 6,324 times, and you can bet your bottom dollar that his bell tower had rung quite a number of times. It's a miracle this man was left with no permanent disability after taking so many blows to the head. Well, I guess practice makes perfect. Number 12. Most wins at a World Beard and Mustache Championship. As there are now more men wearing facial hair than ever, I believe it's appropriate to offer a little recognition to beards and mustaches. After all, this phenomena is loved annually at the World Beard and Mustache Championships, where contestants from all over the world come to show off the masterpieces they have grown out of their face. This happens annually, and in 2015, it happened in Leogang, Austria. There are several categories that allow people to compete in the division that best fits their beard and/or mustache. In the realm of this international competition, one competitor is above all the rest. Karl-Heinz Hill of Germany enjoys 8 victories in the famous holiday end race, competing in the Imperial Partial Beard category. Anyone interested in beard racing can do so at the national level, at the National Beard and Mustache Championship. Just imagine what kind of crazy facial hair you will be able to witness at a rally like this one. If I ever see a contestant, I must ask him a question or two. Number 11. Longest human mattress domino. Here is another entry in the category of strange records. Before we turn to the record that was broken and still not beaten today, we need to explain exactly what human mattress domino is. Unlike human dominoes, which just fall in series with one another, human mattress dominoes depend on the people holding the mattress. In this particular attempt at the world record, everyone used a double-sized mattress. I assumed that human dominoes with extra-large mattresses would be a very different competition. That particular record was set at the huge Gaylord Resort and Convention Center in National Harbor, Maryland, and included 1,200 participants. Yeah, and now imagine all of them holding a mattress. The whole event took a bit more than 13 minutes before the record was set. The best part of this record came when all the mattresses were donated to people in need. Number 10. Man covered by most bees. This is a record that will make you cringe a bit because the record holder was covered from head to toe in bees. It's kind of okay if that person is in a beekeeper's suit, but this one wasn't. This guy had as little clothing as possible while covering just about every orifice with a cork of some kind to prevent the bees from literally finding a way into his body. Undoubtedly, bees would be on the mind of this guy for quite some time after. The man in question was Ruan Lingaming from China. Fortunately for Ruan, he managed to break that record in his home country. Since there was no way to count the bees while they were on his body, the registration was done by weight. Total weight minus Ruan weight equals bee weight. The weight was 2 ounces less than 137 pounds. I'm scared of just one bee. I can't even think about what 137 pounds of them would be like. Number 9. Highest shallow dive. We will begin our diving tour with shallow diving. What is shallow diving? Well, it's diving from any height into a pool no more than 12 inches deep. As you can imagine, the technique chosen by shallow divers is that of full frontal assault, or regionally, of the belly destroyer. The American Darren Taylor, known in the diving world as Professor Splash, has progressed more and more throughout his career. He currently holds the world record of 10.3 meters or 33 feet 10 inches. Yes, that means Darren has jumped from a platform more than 3 stories high and slammed into a children's pool containing approximately 1 foot of water. Diving is a dangerous sport overall, but a miscalculation or excessive rotation in the context of shallow diving will make the participants make an acquaintance with the local miners during work hours. If the diver turns a belly flop into a head first, what is going to happen would best be described by imagining a nail falling into a bucket of yogurt. Number 8. Fastest car. For years, people have been obsessed with speed. If we lived in a perfect world, we could travel at the speed of light. But here's where the paradox kicks in. There's so much joy in taking the journey, it would all simply be omitted. Still, automakers have been working to make cars faster and faster in decades, and they toyed around with rocket-propelled cars and jet engine technology. There are 2 ground-speed vehicles that have made the claim to achieve Mach 1, but only one was actually certified. On October 15, 1997, in the Nevada desert, Andy Green boarded a vehicle known as the Thrust SSC and took a seat between the 2 Rolls-Royce Spey 202 internal combustion engines, the same engine used in the F-4 Phantom fighter plane. After starting the engines and going mental on the throttle, Andy broke the sound barrier and reached a maximum speed of 763,035 miles per hour. If there's one thing that we can say of the great importance to humans as a species is the desire to always go faster. And now for number 7. But first, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss out on more videos like these. Number 7. Fastest hurdles in swim fins. In addition to some great human exploits and legitimate world records in the terms of human performance, Guinness specializes in the absurd. Joggling competitions/sports are honored by Guinness. If you've never heard of joggling, you are not in the minority here. This is juggling while jogging. Therefore, it will be of a little surprise to find out that someone had the idea to run obstacles with swim fins on. Yes, we are talking about the scuba diving gear. When a person does this and calls Guinness to come and take a look, he will be the first holder of a Guinness World Record in the discipline of fin hurdling. In 2008, a German man by the name of Christoph Irmscher wanted to set this record out of the reach of anyone who might think that the fin hurdling record could be beaten. He achieved an impressive time of 14.82 seconds in the 100-meter hurdles. Christoph was a 110-meter high hurdler, so the transition to fins was the only new variable. Number 6. The tallest man. Here is a Guinness World Record that has been maintained for decades and is likely to remain undisputed for decades ahead. This is fascinating to look at, just because people like to see unusually tall individuals. Robert Pershing Wadlow was born in Alton, Illinois on February 22nd in 1918. When he was a teenager, he was taller than anyone he had ever met. As he aged, he continued to grow even bigger. When he reached his peak, Wadlow was a mountain of a man that reached 8 feet and 11.1 inches high. If you measured him with shoes on, that would get you a measurement of about 9 feet. His head would be the same height as a basketball net, and as you can imagine, he needed a lot of calories to get through the day. Wadlow had relatively good health, but unfortunately, he passed away in 1940 after a leg brace injured him. That injury was left untreated and things took a turn for the worse. Number 5. Largest hairy family. This is the story of the Gomez family: Victor, Gabriel, Luis, and Jesus. These 4 people of a Mexican family of 19 members have a lot of love, and they take part in a shared experience spanning over 5 generations. This shared experience has been classified as generalized congenital hypertrichosis that produces body hair everywhere. In men, hair becomes really thick on the face and torso, and in women, it often appears as a softer, fur-like hair on the face and torso. Victor and Gabrielle, known to their closest and dearest people as Larry and Danny, decided to take advantage of what many people would see as a disadvantage in life and act with the Mexican National Circus. The 4 family members have offered their time to medical scientists who hope to identify specific genetic characteristics of those with the condition. Someday, a talented student might even come up with a solution to the condition. Would they go for it, or would they stick with their heritage? Number 4. Largest gathering of people dressed as Superman. I have a personal prediction that any group in the United States will break this record once the right person picks up the initiative. On July 27, 2013, a group of people came out to the Kendall Calling, a small music festival in the UK, to listen to some good music and show off their Superman costumes. A total of 867 individuals appeared looking like Superman. Finally, the group that was representing a costume shop called Escapade planned to try to make their record official with the launch of a Man of Steel while also trying to raise money for its charity, Help for Heroes. The idea was great, and it worked. I personally believe that if more people come together, put on some costumes, and choose a cause for charity, this Guinness World Record could be blown out of the water. It's a win-win situation. Whoever does this will help someone or something and ultimately end up with an entry in the Guinness Book. Number 3. Most Big Macs eaten. Anyone who has watched the Super Size Me documentary in the early 2000s is familiar with Donald A. Gorksky. Donald is known as the king of double-decker burgers known as Big Macs. In recent decades, he has been enjoying 1 or more Big Macs every day. The story goes that when Donald acquired his first car in May of 1972, he went to McDonald's to celebrate. There, he had his first Big Mac, and he quickly fell in love with its taste. He ordered a few more and then kept coming back for more. According to Gorksky, Big Macs represent more than 90% of his intake of solid foods. It's interesting that he has no major health problems and is far from obese. So far, he has eaten over 26,000 Big Macs and keeps receipts for all his burgers while maintaining a log of Big Mac experiences. Number 2. Largest living cat. Currently, the largest living cat is a liger in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I know that animals behind fences break people's hearts, but this guy doesn't stand a chance in the wild. He's just too majestic. Someone tried to dethrone the liger from the #1 spot, and that was the son of a lion and a tigress called Hercules. The largest cat in existence today is almost 11 feet long, measures more than 4 feet high at his front shoulders, and weighs an impressive 922 pounds. This kitty is a 1,000-pound killing machine, but it gets along quite well with humans. Until there's no more food around, I presume. Number 1. World's largest pizza. Did someone say Italian food? Is there anything in the world as satisfying as a well-made pizza? And when it comes to breaking a world record, what can be more inspiring and intriguing than the record of the world's largest pizza? Before I give you the details, give me your best guess about the size of the pizza in question. It was made before the end of the world, December 13th, 2012, to be precise. You know, shortly before the world ends on December 21st. This pizza was made in Italy and was called Ottavia in honor of the first Roman emperor. The frickin' pizza was 13,580 square feet. If you want to put a tray under this pizza, it will need to be nearly 117 feet by 117 feet. Just imagine how many products went into the making of this behemoth. It was all worth it in the end, and maybe that is the reason why the world didn't end on December 21st. Even Mother Earth decided to wait for the next big thing that we could come up with. Number 11. Hobbit House, Highland, Scotland. The weirdest thing about this fairy tale cabin is that it was not actually built in the homage to the famous Lord of the Rings house, despite its strange resemblance. Instead, owner Stuart Grant, a retired carpenter at 86, built the house in 1984, long before the films came out. Located on the outskirts of the town Tumik, the picturesque cabin occupies an idyllic setting in the woods, which includes a pond with a small wooden bridge in the garden. The exterior is covered with moss and ivy, giving the impression that it is slowly merging with the natural world. Inside is full of cozy details, from traditional tartan blankets to sheepskin and wooden beams. In addition, the house is decorated with unique furniture made from the experienced carpenter owner. The kitchen may be small, but every inch of space is used for storage. There are hanging plates, shelves, and cupboards in the corners, plus many neat decorations that adorn the window that overlooks the garden. Although he admits he is not a fan of Lord of the Rings, Grant receives some curious fans who come by the property and says he's happy to welcome visitors. If you could, would you buy the house and live like the modern-day Lord of the Rings? Let me know in the comments. Number 10. Reversible Destiny Lofts, Mitaka, Japan. This impressive complex of colorful balloon apartments has been designed by architects Arakawa and Madeline Gins. The unusual name comes from their philosophy of creating buildings that stimulate the senses in order to prolong life through architectural design. The complex is currently used as residential and public space and hosts various cultural and educational events. Inside, the decoration creates a multi-sensory experience with tactile surfaces, vibrant colors, and strangely shaped rooms to keep residents alert. Inside, you almost don't see a flat surface. The kitchen countertops curl around a central pillar, the floors are covered with a series of bumps, and even the bathroom is contained in its own tiny capsule. Whether you think it would be an exciting place to live in and attack your senses on a daily basis, you cannot deny that the reversible Destiny Lofts are unique in nature and have become quite an attraction in the local area. Number 9. Falcon's Nest, Arizona, USA. Many people dream of living surrounded by panoramic views, and the Falcon's Nest makes that dream come true. Situated on the slopes of the pedestrian walkway known as Thumb Butte near Preston Center in Yavapai County, it offers a stunning 360-degree view of the valley with visibility extending up to 120 miles. Built by architect Phoenix Sukumar Pal in 1994 for his own family, the unusual property is currently the tallest single-family home in America with 10 floors in total. The living areas are concentrated in the upper levels of light, while the bedrooms and bathrooms are below. The attractive kitchen and dining area feature impressively symmetrical architecture with bright countertops, 2 dining tables, and elegant appliances that allow unusual space to shine. The double bed that is situated on the top of the building is ideally prepared for stargazing at night and watching the clouds during the day. In addition, when you need privacy, there are curtains that you can use to block out the light and the prying eyes. The impressive architectural house was placed on the market in 2017 for $1.5 million, though it was later sold for only $755,000. That's a bargain. Come on, guys, what's not to love about this house? Number 8. Capitol Hill Residence, Moscow, Russia. If you were a Russian billionaire, why not make your home look like a giant spacecraft? For Vladislav Doronin, who once was going out with supermodel Naomi Campbell, this was the obvious path. So he commissioned the late architect Zaha Hadid to design the 72-foot-tall private residence. The main idea of Capitol Hill Residence came after the initial conversation between the designer Doronin when Doronin said that he wants to wake up and see nothing less than a clear blue sky. To which Hadid replied that somehow Doronin's bed had to be situated above the trees. This might sound like a problem to you, but when you can just throw money at a problem until it goes away, it certainly isn't such a big deal. The house, which was completed in 2018 after more than 10 years of construction, has a lower stretch that merges with the sloping landscape, and an upper stretch that allows Doronin to contemplate the nearby forest outside Moscow. Inside, it's like you're visiting the Jetsons, with a chimney hanging organically from the curved roof and a series of metal orb sculptures. On top of that, the decor remains minimalistic to keep the focus on the architecture and the stunning views that the house provides. Although it looks like it's from another planet, the house does not lack luxury. It has a 65-meter pool, spa, gym, Japanese garden, and a nightclub. There is a good reason why Hadid referred to the businessman as the Russian James Bond. I wouldn't be surprised if in an emergency situation, the house could simply fly away to safety. Just look at it. If I've ever seen a spaceship, it might as well look like this. And now for number 7. But first, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss out on more videos like these. Number 7. Fusterlandia, Havana, Cuba. When it comes to strange homes, this bold and beautiful creation in Havana is more than adequate. The extensive property adorned with sculptures is, naturally, the home of artist and sculptor Jose Fuster, from where he had the residence is named. Not surprisingly, a lot of people look at the property as Cuba's response to Gaudi. The mosaic structures resemble the sophisticated style of the Spanish architect, mixed with Picasso's influences. Strange motifs include an eye, a giant banana, and a mermaid. Around the outdoor pool are hordes of whimsical paintings and mosaics representing the Cubist faces, sea creatures, and fish that come to life in a variety of colors. There are no unpainted tiles in this maximalist house. However, the artist's inspiration is not limited to the boundaries of his property. He has decorated a range of public spaces, including bus stops, doctor's office, and banks, placing his unique stamp on the neighborhood. Looking at this house, it is not surprising why tourists swarm the house in flocks just to take a picture. The artist offers free tours of Festerland, although the local economy benefits from the influx of visitors, which means that Fester has had a very positive impact. Number 6. Freedom Cove, British Columbia, Canada. Living off the grid does not mean that the couple, Wayne Adams and Catherine King, wanted to keep their home discreet. Freedom Cove, a floating residence located near Tofino, an area on Vancouver Island, Canada's west coast, is painted in bright magenta and green. The couple in question began building their unusual house in 1991, using some wood that they had collected from trees that had fallen due to a recent storm. The floating island of 15 platforms continues to expand, and the couple uses predominantly collected and reusable and sustainable materials. Despite their remote location, Wayne and Catherine have everything they need and more. There are 4 greenhouses, a guest house, gardens, an art workshop, and even a dance floor among the wide range of Freedom Cove facilities. The couple enjoys living off the grid, and most of the food they eat is grown on the island or caught in the close waters. They go to the continent every 2 weeks to get essential commodities, but otherwise are self-sufficient. If you are interested in learning more about this unusual house, the doors of the home in Freedom Cove are open to visitors during the summer months, allowing tourists to come and visit, understand, and appreciate the lifestyle that the couple chose. Number 5. The Heliotrope, Freiburg, Germany. When local authorities considered building a nuclear power plant near his home, Rolf Disch decided that he is not going to roll over and just let them. After campaigning against the plant, he began looking for solar energy, and thus the Heliotrope residence was born, a rotating solar-powered home. The 48-foot tall structure was built 25 years ago and is currently occupied by Rolf and his wife. It is named after heliotropic plants that turn to the sun as the building rotates 180 degrees throughout the day to provide the maximum amount of solar energy. In this way, it became the first home in the world to produce more energy than it uses. The building has an insulated metal side and a glazed side. On the hot days, the insulated side faces the sun to keep the house cool, while on cold days, the glass walls turn to the sun for warmth. The interior sun baths due to the open-plan living room and kitchen area. The discreet decoration allows the beauty of the architecture to shine, nowhere more than at the specially equipped kitchen designed to follow the circular shape of the home. In addition to the photovoltaic rooftop solar panels that generate electricity, the balusters on the balconies have vacuum tubes that provide hot water and heating. And the rotating design means that the views change every day. Who wouldn't want to live in a place like this? Number 4. The Flintstone House, California, USA. Want to see another strange property? I'm betting that you yabba dabba do. This strange Flintstone house, named like that because it looks like the Stone Age house of Fred and Wilma in the popular cartoon, was built in 1977 and was designed by the architect William Nicholson. This extravagant property came to life in bright purple and red, with the structure formed by several adjacent balloon shapes. It is made of wire and concrete, a type of concrete sprayed through a hose, that form the spherical shapes that give the house its unusual look. It is surprisingly minimalistic inside. The walls are whitewashed and there is a simple color palette of red, oranges, and browns that emphasize everything. Some extravagant touches, which include Flintstone moffats, dolls, and naive-style modern art, connect the interior space to the Flintstone theme. Curved walls are usually the nightmare of an interior designer as they are very difficult to work with. But in this house, round shelves and public surface spaces are carved into the cave-like walls to provide the unusual storage space. The effect? Star Trek meets the Flintstones. The house was placed on the market in 2015 for $4.2 million, although it was not purchased until 2017 for a much lower price of $2.8 million. It was bought by a media tycoon, Florence Feng, who admitted to having his eye on it for a couple years. Number 3. Tree Wow Resort, Beijing, China. If living in a treehouse is your dream, this unusual wooden house might just be the thing for you. The building stands on stilts with a circular and corrugated roof, and although not actually built around a tree, the style of the house makes architects refer to it as such. Designed by architects from Monarchy, the holiday home is located in the banks of the stream that sits between the mountains of the rural village Zhengkun. When viewed from above, it looks like 3 displaced circles. The first, an outside balcony area, the second, a guest house, and the third, a central sun hatch that creates surprisingly different views as you move through the insides of the marvelous construction. Inside, the bedroom is kept minimalistic, allowing bamboo walls and impressive architecture to be the center of attention. The sloping roof is positioned so that the rooms have more privacy, while the living space is situated in a way that absorbs the nature of the vicinity. Craftsmen who live and work in the area use local wood to create the structure, which helps it feel like part of the landscape, despite its surprisingly unusual design. Number 2. Bat Casa, San Miguel, Mexico. St. Miguel's Dark Knight himself, Steve Rude, lives in the Bat House that he built himself, a two-story house with the iconic Batman symbol. The design of the house is Rude's creation, and he used expanding structures and organic forms to create a truly unique house that became a local landmark. Rude is a set designer for big film productions who used his 3D modeling skills to create the organic shapes throughout the house. He then worked with a team of specialist builders who brought his project to life, thanks to some help from the plastic pipes, wire mesh, and concrete. Inside, the roomy structures create a unique space that is influenced by Gaudi and futuristic designer H.R. Giger. If you have seen the movie Alien, then you have an idea of what the art of H.R. Giger is like. Perhaps one of the craziest features is the staircase, which is designed to resemble the vertebrae of the spine. Meanwhile, the bathroom presents, what else? A set of ghostly skeletal hands attached to the walls like hooks. The open-plan living room and the kitchen area are a mix of design influences from Gaudi-style white veins to a giant surreal pair of red lips mounted on the wall that take a lot of Salvador Dali. Meanwhile, one of the rooms called the Bat's Nest looks quite cozy, nestled in the cavernous space with the irregular globular windows to look out over San Miguel. This is one of the most unusual houses I have ever seen. If you are curious about it and want to live in it for a couple of nights, Rude placed the house on Airbnb, and you can have a sleepover for the reasonable price of $180 per night, which is a great price for such a crazy-looking house. Number 1. Dr. Seuss House, Talkeetna, Alaska. Visitors of Alaska may be surprised to see this impressive cartoon house on the horizon, although it appears to have been taken directly from a Dr. Seuss book. The 185-foot, 12-story tower was not built in tribute to any of the extravagant illustrations in the books. The former owner, Philip Wiedner, wanted to increase the height of his cabin so he could see the nearby Denali Mountain. He continued to add layers until he was able to have a clear view through the trees, thus reaching such impressive heights. Philip died more than 15 years ago, and since then, the house remains unfinished. It was recently acquired by another buyer who intends to continue working on the house. Until then, it remains an unusual cornerstone and a curiosity trait for many. If you are interested in seeing the house for yourself, the best way to get a view is to take the Alaska Railroad through Talkeetna, or you can see it from the road if you prefer to travel by car. Some intrepid fans even approach the house to take pictures, although technically it is privately owned. Thanks for watching. Which of these would you like to own and why? What would you build for yourself if you had an unlimited amount of money? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time.